Good morning. Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living, Edmonton-Metro, and our meditation. And I'll begin with a guided meditation this morning, followed by a spiritual mind treatment. My name's Reverend Tim Peterson. I'm one of the ministers here in our ministerial team. So I just invite you just to close your eyes and just relax, just breathe. Take a slow, deep breath to bring yourself into this present moment, and just to begin feeling more peaceful and more centered with each breath. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth, and notice the coolness of each inhale and the warmth of each exhale through your mouth. Just feel the differences and realize it's the same air, changed through each of us. Now just take a minute or two to mentally scan your body for any stress, or if there's any tightness or tension. And breathe your warm, oxygen-filled breath into that area. With each breath out, let the tension release. Breathing it out. Now notice any worries or fears, or angers, irritation, jealousy, or judgment that you may be having in this moment, and just breathe into those, noting them and allowing them to flow out with each exhale. And say silently to yourself that I'm calm, centered, peaceful, and loved. I am calm, centered, peaceful, and loved. And in this moment, I'm just returning to that secret place of the Most High Living God with each breath. I live in gratitude today for all that I have, for the abundance that is awaiting me and awaiting my recognition of it. I already have so many wonderful gifts. The gift of life itself, the most precious gift. We are gifted from the moment we are born. Someone gave birth to you, someone fed you as an infant. They clothed you. They bathed you, they taught you how to speak and to understand. We have the gift of hearing, so you can hear and learn. Whether it's the song of a bird or the sound of your own breath flowing in and out. The gift of a heartbeat that is steady, regular, moment after moment. pumping life-giving blood to all your organs. Now just think about all the things we have today to make our lives easier and more comfortable than they were for our parents or even our grandparents. We flip a switch and light appears. We turn a tap and clean, drinkable water flows. We adjust the thermostat and a room grows warmer or colder. We have a roof to keep us dry when it rains, walls to keep out the cold wind, windows to let in the light, and screens to keep out insects. We have a vehicle that takes us to where we want to go. Whether our vehicle is an automobile or our body. We have access to machines that wash our clothes, and we have clothes to wear, places to store them. There are machines that store our food at just the right temperature and help us cook it without having to gather wood. We have indoor plumbing. We have public libraries that have thousands of books and recordings, free for anyone to borrow and read. We have public schools that can teach us how to read and write, skills that were available to only a very few a few hundred years ago. We have hospitals to help us heal. And there are those millions of people that have worked hard without our even knowing it to make our lives easier and more pleasant. People who grow, plant, and harvest your food. Those who transport your food to market. A team of people who make the roads and railways to make it easier to transport the food or your clothing. Another team who maintains the vehicles and drivers, and there's loaders and unloaders. That those that take the time to design a store and the shelves and the packaging which keeps food safe and allows you to find whatever you need. A postal service. Someone who sorts the mail and others who deliver it. Those who maintain the server so you can get and send emails and access the internet. Those who design operations and systems for gathering and sorting and disposing of trash and recycling. Those who play sports, create art or music, plays or poems, or films to uplift and entertain you. I'm so grateful to be in this room with these people, to be able to speak throughout the world. It's humbling to realize that all I have all that is given to me. There is one power, one truth, one love, one law, one essence of life itself, expanding and enhancing life. It enhances each life. It is Spirit made manifest through everything that we do, everything that I do, everything that I think, say, and how I act. It is the presence of life, of love, of peace, of harmony, of joy, of creativity, of passion, and of purpose. It is my life now. And it is up to me how I choose to live my life. So today I live it gratefully, knowingly, purposefully. I know that I have an abundance of loving relationships in my life. I know that the creative self-expression that I choose to express is made with a divine ideal and a divine idea. I speak words of encouragement, enlightenment, and purpose to myself and to all others. I know I live in a friendly world, and I share that friendship with all that I meet. So I breathe in all the magnificence of life, and I breathe out anything that may get in my way of living that life. There is one power, and that power is love, and that power is my power right now. So with gratitude, not just for one thing, but for everything, I release this. I let it be so. And together we say, and so it is.
So let's take a deep breath. Center ourselves, ground ourselves, be present in this moment, ready to connect, be inspired, learn something that we can put into practice this week. Our speaker today is a natural teacher. She teaches business practices and including bookkeeping and computers and finance. She's a creative thinker, a generous being, and a great friend. Speaking today on the adventures of life, please welcome one of our ministerial students, Jayme Blenkarn. I'm going to turn you on.
Good morning. Just checking my mic. I think I bumped it with my mask. Everybody can hear me? Awesome. So good morning, and good morning to you at home as well on Facebook Live. I'm a little nervous this morning. It's a bit unusual. I'm just going to take a calming breath. I'm inviting you to hold consciousness for me right now. Anyway, I love books. Do you love books? I've got dozens of books, shelves of books. I have a few that I haven't even opened yet. More than a few, actually. Sometimes I go to the bookstore and I see a book and it's got a catchy cover, it's got an enticing title, and I flip it around and I read the back and I think, oh goodness, this is going to be a fabulous read. I'm just going to fix this because I think I'm messing with it. 1 sec. Down. Okay, let's try that. And I read the back and I decide it's going to be a fabulous... Better? There we go. Okay. And I buy it. But sometimes I never really actually get around to reading some of them. Or I do start reading it, but it just doesn't resonate with me. And I read a few pages and I put it back down. And I don't pick it up again. I think that's okay. I think it's okay to buy a book and not read it. Okay. It's important to give it an honest try. But some books just don't touch me in the feels, and I don't want to read them. I'll go on to something else. Okay. Good? Okay. So what are you reading lately? Did you know that the last Wednesday of every month, our practitioner team here has a meeting? We get together either here or when we can't, we meet on Zoom and we get a connection and we plan on how we're going to support each other, how we're going to support you, how we're going to support our community. And one of the regular things that we do is we have something called a roundtable question. And our question this week was what we were reading. And we were sharing what we were reading and why and what was in it that was inspiring us. So I'm inviting you to, for those of you at home, to go onto Facebook and tell us what you're reading. What's inspiring you? Is it entertaining you? Are you learning something new or escaping somewhere? There are times when I can get really lost in a book, deeply lost, and I love that feeling. And I can truly embody what I'm reading. Sometimes things just resonate with me so completely. I've actually been reading a bit of Mary Oliver, who's a wonderful poet. I'm going to share one of them with you. It's a wonderful spring poem for those of us morning people, for sure. It's called Why I Wake Early. Hello, sun in my face. Hello, you who make the morning and spread it over the fields and into the faces of the tulips and the nodding morning glories and into the windows of even the miserable and the crotchety. Best preacher that ever was, dear star, that just happens to be where you are in the universe, to keep us from ever darkness, to ease us with warm touching, to hold us in the great hands of light. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Watch now how I start my day in happiness, in kindness. Is that okay, Catherine? You check the mic? Just out? Okay, sorry. Let's try that. That's better. So these words touch me somewhere, in a place without words. And what I like to read is no doubt different than what you like to read, because we all have preferences, right? But I won't like you less because of it. I just hope we both read, and that we read what we love. And I mean really reading, the embodying reading. I think there's a reading, surface reading, and then there's sacred reading, where you just let it flow into your bones. Especially the ones that I find, that I embody them so much that I take them to bed with me at night and I let them lie next to me by my pillow, because I'm thinking, wow, this is the best I've ever read. And then next month it'll be something else. But there's embracing a book, and there's embodying a book. And then there's a full-on emboldening a book. And those are the books that I feel in my bones. And maybe it's not reading. Maybe you have another hobby that you embody because you are passionate about it and it makes you feel alive. And I think embodying something is a feeling in your bones, and then you let it shine through you so that you can share it with the world. And it almost becomes a part of you. Now, I haven't always loved books because I didn't always have access to them. I grew up on a farm, and I remember clearly we had 2 books. Both of them were really well used. One was the Webster's Dictionary, and the other was my mom's recipe book. We didn't have many children's books. We just had Utpik, the Oogling Arctic Owl, was one of them. And I think we had one of those little golden books. I think it was the Pokey Little Puppy. But it was rural Alberta. We didn't have a bookstore. But we could go to the school library and we could check out books. And I embraced the books, Curious George, Hardy Boys, Nancy Drew. Those were my favorites. But I'm sure you read something different. If you went to the library, you picked something that was good for you. I had favorites, preferences, book tastes. But then, eventually, I could buy my own books through the monthly book club through school. Do you remember that? Scholastics? It was once a month we'd get this little calendar or catalog. And I loved that. I remember how I felt inside when I could see that catalog on the teacher's desk before she would hand it out, and I would just be waiting in anticipation. It took eternity for her to hand that out, and that inner joy was palpable. The smell of the ink on that little catalog, I can remember it in the moment. And then when that book arrived, weeks later, wow, I couldn't get off the school bus fast enough to get upstairs and shut my door and go in my room and read. I don't think my siblings read, but I was a bookworm. I didn't always know that, but eventually it was just a passion for me. And that is when the love of books came into my life, when I started to be able to order my own books, when I could pick my own. $1.49, Mom would give me a little bit of money, and I could buy any book I wanted. That was a sense of freedom I never forgot. And it's a privilege that not everybody has. I have the freedom to choose what I could read. Some of my favorite books today are still from that book club. I still have one of them on my bookshelf. Two that come to mind are The Story of Helen Keller, and the other book was called Slave Girl, and I still have that one. I probably read it 30 times. These books I not only embraced, I embodied them. As I read every word and reread them multiple times, I somehow felt them in my bones in this indescribable place. Do you ever get that feeling when you read it or do something? It's just so deep. It feels like a country song, doesn't it? For those of us from the farm. There is a joy and happiness and truth in that bone-deep resonance of doing something you love. The best books inspire us, motivate us, entertain us, educate us, allow us to escape, be happily distracted from the busyness of life, and maybe even avoid life sometimes. I can read, surface read, or I can deeply read. I call it sacred reading, where I go there for resonance that brings some real personal nourishment and sustenance. Some of us want to read to feel something, to experience an emotional impact, to get out of our heads, or completely immerse ourselves elsewhere in a place or an idea or a time in history. So in the 70s, we had an old dictionary and Mom's book, her recipe book. This is probably my mom's very first recipe book. It's not as messy as mine. I have chocolate and butter on mine. The summer of 1952, a bridal shower gift from the community ladies. Each one typed out, if you looked at each page, and you can see it was cut with those fancy little jagged scissors that they even had back then. But they had the name of the recipe and the wonderful woman that contributed it. And sometimes there would be a poem. And they have the ingredients. And sometimes they even had instructions. If you were lucky, you got instructions. Most of my mom's recipes had no instructions, and that's a problem. But that's another talk title. I don't have time for that today. Each recipe also has the name of the person. So this is a treasure, and it's almost 70 years old. Aren't recipe books incredible? And who really comes up with these? And I'm sure that most of those are not original recipes. They were probably handled down from one generation to the next. And maybe some were probably plagiarized out of the Country Woman magazine. But who really figures these out? It's incredible. We had a family recipe called Crazy Cracker Cake. I have no idea where that recipe came from. It's not in that book, so it came later. It probably came off the Mr. Christie cracker box, since 50% of that recipe is crunched up crackers. It was somebody's new creation, somebody's new idea. Who was that undiscovered genius? I reaped the benefits of someone's imagination. That one recipe that you so deeply love is somebody's undiscovered genius. When you think of your favorite recipe, you have 2 or 3 that immediately come to mind, and as they come to mind, they come to your taste buds, they come to the surface of your tongue, and you can taste them, and you can feel them, and you can remember them, and you can attach them to memories of your life. It's incredible. Food's amazing. When it comes to food and recipes, I believe there's eating, and then there's real eating, and even sacred eating. When the nourishment and sustenance of each bite impacts your taste buds in that bone-deep place, it fascinates me that someone has the fortitude to create recipes for us. I just had to embrace the idea and try the recipe. Crazy Cracker Cake hasn't been around for all eternity. Someone decided, from a very long list of potential ingredients, to create it. There are literally hundreds, maybe thousands of available ingredients. Someone, obviously one of my heroes, decided to take 10 or 12 ingredients in some ideal quantities and mix them together in the perfect order, perfect method to cook it or not cook it at the right temperature for the perfect number of minutes, and then we just eat it. Now, I don't know if it's that easy. No one in their right mind would put peanut butter, melted chocolate chips, raw eggs, instant coffee, and crushed crackers and icing sugar together. That is an absurd idea. Yet there it was, and they didn't cook it. The eggs were never cooked. Original recipes probably took trial and error. I don't think anybody just fluked out on those. It amazes me. I couldn't do that. I doubt I could make up a recipe. I would just end up with a big blob of clay-like substance in a pan that even the dog wouldn't eat. Recipes like books are a gift to us. Someone figured this out for us. We didn't have to go through the failures and tossing them in the garbage. We had favorite recipes, like we have favorite books. Like our personal taste for books, recipes have to resonate with us. They have to satisfy our own unique palate. Food nourishes us and sustains us, but the food we love nourishes us differently. I want to live life like an adventure. I want to read books that I can't put down. I want to try recipes that make my taste buds dance. I used to cut recipes out of magazines. I'd like to catch delicious pictures in a magazine with the intriguing recipe name, and I'd read the caption, and I think I got to try this. But just like the books that caught my eye that I never read, some of those recipes I've actually never tried. For a lot of my life, I got stuck in the old meat and potatoes eating that I grew up with. I was well into my 40s before I discovered the joy of some food that I had refused to try. Mushrooms, zucchini, and asparagus. I really just needed the right recipe. I love them now. I have to choose to try them, and I can embrace them now. I can actually even embody them. I decided to take a chance and really try them without some preconceived idea about them, and that was an important life lesson for me. I am grateful for every author of every book I have loved. I am grateful for every cook, the people who inspired, motivated to create stories and dishes for my enjoyment, your enjoyment. I didn't have to do the hard work. So just like recipes and books, they're creatively designed. This leads me to the most underrated book ever. You won't even imagine. Can you think of an underrated book? Some might think the Science of Mind textbooks. One is the most amazing books. Maybe the Bible, maybe the Quran, maybe the Talmud. For me, the best book ever written was the Canadian Dictionary. Because just like a giant list of ingredients, it is used to create just like the giant list of ingredients is used to create each and every individual food recipe in that cookbook, the dictionary is a list of words that are used to create each and every book sits in here. Think about that for a minute. Every English book you have read is the creative genius of someone who pulled out several hundred words, repeated them, mixed them, and stirred them. And ta-da, a book. But it's not just a book any more than a recipe is just a recipe. Someone was inspired, motivated to assemble those ingredients, put together those words by desire, intuition, creativity, and imagination. So what do books and recipes have to do with the spiritual journey? Choosing a book by reading the back cover at a bookstore or choosing to print off a yummy recipe off of the internet is a good step. But is it if I don't read it, if I don't try the recipe? I am free to shop for books. I am free to collect recipes. I can embrace the idea of them, but I don't always embody them. There is reading, and then there's real reading. There is eating, and then there's sacred eating. Now, I church shopped for most of my adult life. I looked for the catchy churches with intriguing names. I took them at the surface until I got to this teaching. I wasn't embodying my spiritual journey. I had to find the one that was more than a catchy picture on a cover or an intriguing title. I had to find one that resonated with me, one that bone deep resonated with me. I Googled the major religions last night. And depending on the source I looked at, there's 5, 6, 7, maybe 12. And then 100 variations of some of those. But the numbers don't matter much. Here's the catch of all the catches for me. There are 2 incredible words in this dictionary. One's on page 328. Pray. To speak to God, especially to give thanks or ask for something, to hope or wish very much for. A prayer, word spoken to God, the act of praying to God, a strong hope or wish. The second word on page 128. Divine. Of or relating to God or a God, being in praise of God, holy, like a God, very good. To discover or understand something by using intuition. Prayer and the divine are 2 of the most amazing words. And because somebody took those 2 words and created a religion, created a religious text based on their imagination and their creativity, something they thought was a wonderful recipe that somebody else could use in their life for nourishment and sustenance. Not necessarily mine. They designed a spiritual recipe for our inner spiritual growth. Now, not every religious idea resonates with me. I get to choose, just like I can choose a book and I can choose a recipe. I can choose what prayer and I can choose what the divine means for me. We each get to choose which book we read. That's freedom. We each get to choose which recipe we try. That too is freedom. We get to embrace the spiritual tools and principles and concepts that resonate with us individually. That is freedom too. I got to choose which teaching makes my spiritual taste buds dance. I chose this teaching, and this teaching has changed my life. My work, my relationships, how and where I live, the choices I make, and the friendships I keep or not keep, my prosperity, my ability to manage grief, stress, all of that has changed completely. Now, my life's not perfect. And when it doesn't feel perfect like it didn't this morning, I went and I found a practitioner and I asked for treatment. I came in here and I listened to the music to settle myself. I listened to Tim's amazing meditation. And I know that I stand up here guided and supported by Spirit. Using the tools and principles is not just believing in prayer, but genuinely trying prayer, real prayer, sacred prayer. I choose what the divine means to me, that's freedom. And I choose what prayer is to me, that's freedom. And you can too. But there's always a but. Here's the but. It didn't work for me until I sat with it like a good book, until I sunk my teeth into it like the first bite of an incredible recipe, until I put down all of the ideas of why it wouldn't work and embraced the idea that it would work for me. Thank you, Vicki. Quite simply, Ernest Holmes did not teach how, he did teach how and why to pray, but ultimately he just gave us a recipe. He wanted us to embrace the idea of prayer, to test it, to try it, to prove it to ourselves. That was his genius. He knew if we tried it, really tried it, embraced it, he knew that because the laws and principles are indisputable, he knew that it would work if we used it. And there is nothing more powerful than proving something to yourself. I could ask 100 ministers how to pray, why I should pray, and I can even ask them to prove it to me. But I wouldn't have believed them. I wouldn't have believed it until I proved it to myself. I have tried mindless, habitual, rote, routine, mechanical, automatic, tedious, monotonous ways of eating, reading, and praying. But my life is far more exciting, authentic, and exquisite with real reading, real eating, and even sacred praying. Living real spiritual principles every day, embracing them and embodying them. I would like to close with a short meditation. I'm going to invite you to close your eyes. Catherine's going to put on a little music. I'm going to read you some words. And I want you to just let them flow through you. A nice deep breath. And know that we're supported and loved by the divine right here, right now. And know with me, there is this place. There is this place within, a particular indescribable place where the outer layer of your bone meets to dance effortlessly with the muscles of your body. Find that spot. There, they are great partners. They are conjoined miraculously, designed to choreography the physical dance of your life. Where in that coming together also lies the deep inner sense, that joy of being alive. And also lies there that terrible restlessness of not being quite alive enough. Where love and loss meet in such a way that even the most articulate are often staring speechlessly into the sunset as the accumulation of experience, the passing of time, leaves entwined the painted layers of both ecstasy and sorrow, where only soul-deep breathing can faintly touch what lies there. But when we do touch it, it is bold with simultaneous and instantaneous grateful smiles, the glistening of tears, where truth appears, absolutely seemingly insane, but so clearly sane and perfect, where nothing but the tendons of gratitude can seem to keep them functioning in synchronicity, where marrow deep you find the memories of all that you've had, with the memories of what you've never had, or once had, and that had taken away, by no fault of your own, or perhaps even those too. There where the dance of life pushes and pokes and prods us out of our own fearfully created, mundane existence, stirs our passion and ignites the fire of our dreams, where both sorrowful poems are written and joyful songs are sung, reminding us to get up and then get up again, to get up and get going toward the life we were born to live, with purpose and intention, to dance inwardly and outwardly. Can you hear the music? The inner music. It is the music of your soul calling you to dance. You have this one and only one dance. This place in you, your spiritual marrow. Sometimes it feels like just getting old or getting tired, but perhaps it is more often the place that feels like getting alive, getting real, getting honest about this journey, the one waywardness of it, the irritating rub like sand on paper, warning us that the flow of the grains of sand in an hourglass run out. No one can flip it for us. There in this indescribable place lies grace waiting for you to say yes to its presence, say yes to its gifts, and yes to its power. Yes to your life. Say yes. Whisper yes, or shout yes. Shout it out so loudly that it reverberates there where your bones meet your muscle. And you never forget that yes you proclaim right now in this moment to live your life so amazingly that you surprise those closest to you, so loudly that you surprise even yourself. Stop and promise right here and right now to dance your song. The dance of your one life. Dance to the song of your soul. Don't ask where, what, when, and how. Truly, you already know that. Don't stop to find your best shoes, comb your hair, or brush your teeth, because no one cares. Or at least no one that matters cares. Go dance barefoot in the grass, or wherever you feel your feet land. You'll be so busy dancing, you won't feel the sharpness of the pebbles or the heat of the pavement. You have no time for explaining and complaining. You've got dancing to do. Your song is waiting for you. You can hear it in silence, in stillness. Listen, then go. Reveal the lyrics of your life, the melody of your being, the notes of your knowing. It's been waiting for you to hear it since you took your first breath. Release the anchors of fear. They are a false sense of safety that you no longer need. And I invite you back to the room. I had to choose. I had to choose to take a chance. Then I had to make changes, and there's been no looking back. My spiritual taste buds dance every day, even on the hard days, some really hard ones. I had to embrace and embody life. Now I'm bringing on the emboldenment. This is an adventure. This is an adventure called life. Fire it up. So it is.